Hi, I'm Melanie Hellyer of Healthy Brandon, and welcome to another in our garden workshop series. Today we're going to be talking about harvesting. So Healthy Brandon is doing a partnership with the City of Brandon, and we're doing a series of workshops on gardening called Gardening 101. So with me today, we're at the lovely location of Willow Lane Gardens, just outside of Brandon, and with me today is owner of Willow Lane, Alan Plett, with daughter Shyla, and Shannon Plett, his wife, is hardworking in the background. You might see her working. So the Plett family runs the Willow Lane Gardens. So today we're going to be talking about harvesting because we've had such a great summer with lots of heat, and it's kind of been an unusual summer with moisture and things like that. But now it's harvest time. So we have lots of questions from gardeners wondering, when is it ready to harvest? What should I be looking for when it's ready? And Alan, I'm wondering if you can tell us the answers to some of those questions.
Well, I can try. I mean, we've been doing this now for 4 years, so there's a lot of things that we have learned over that time. Pumpkins, watermelons, the zucchinis, the patty pans, and then of course the tomatoes, cucumbers, peas. They're all done for this year, but they all have their different times.
That was my
when
question.
when they get ready. So
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is they all have their characters when they are ripe. Sometimes you can pick some stuff early and it will get better as it'll ripen on its own. Other times you want to just pick it right now. It's ready.
Okay.
Use it up right away.
Okay.
So that is the difference. Like when you get into the winter squashes, which we'll get to later in the garden, they'll last gladly for months.
Right.
If you store them right.
Okay. Well, we're right beside some watermelons. I love watermelons. Can you give us some tips on what to look for when the watermelon is ready?
Yes, there is. As you see, this is our watermelon patch here. This is what they call the Crimson Sensation. This is this is actually one of my favorite watermelons. And as you'll see on that bottom, it's starting to get a spot where it's on the ground. And that one is still pretty white. You want to have that one turning sort of into that yellow. And then another tip for doing watermelons is you see on the vine here, right the closest to where the watermelon connects, you'll have a little viney stick on there.
Okay.
And that has to turn brown. And I have some in the garden. If we want, we could go and look, and you could see where there's actually, this one has. So this one will start drying up from the end, and once it's all the way dry, you know it's ready to harvest.
Okay. If you pick it too soon, will it affect the taste? Will it be bitter?
It won't. This one won't necessarily get bitter, but a watermelon stops ripening when it's cut off.
Okay.
So it's not like one of those things that you can cut it and then it's gonna get juicy and red and nice.
Okay.
It stays pretty much like it is when you cut it off. This is our cantaloupe patches. These here, I pretty much go by smell. I come out to the garden and I smell, oh, there's one ready. That is the most perfect. Cantaloupe is a little different. This one here, once this one has a nice spot down here and it's starting to turn brown, you can pick it off and it'll ripen over 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
And that is no problem on cantaloupe. I don't even think it really affects the taste if it has turned sort of brown.
Okay.
But the sweetest and best is when this here stem gets loose and it actually just falls right off. That is the perfect time. It's ready to eat. Here is zucchini patch. Did you leave any plants that weren't?
I did one yellow one here in the front, yeah.
Okay. So here we have a zucchini patch, and this is the yellow zucchini. There's a green zucchini that we grow, and then the yellow one, and in there is the yellow zucchinis. And zucchinis, really, there isn't a lot to know. If you like baby ones, these are ready to eat anytime. So if you really love baby ones, you can go ahead and pick those, and you can steam them, fry them, whatever. If you want to, let them grow longer. We have some that grow, like we grow huge ones. They call them zucchini boats.
Oh, okay.
People love zucchini boats. So zucchini is really, and this plant we will plant it in the greenhouse. We'll start some maybe in May,
In May.
and then they will start producing probably June, middle of June,
Okay.
and they will go right till frost. Cut one off of the stem right here. If you got a knife, just cut it nice and close up to the stem, and there you have. This is a bigger one, but that still is beautiful for any salad, like steam or whatever you want to do with it.
So is it preferable to cut it there or to twist it? Is either method okay, or what's the preferred method?
If you just pull them or break them, they often break off.
Okay.
And then they'll rot or get soft.
Yeah.
It often comes off right on the zucchini.
Okay.
We always cut them just
them?
to, that way a little stem stays on.
Okay. Good. Thank you for the advice. It's
Yeah.
good to do the thing that's best for it.
That's right. That's a very good tip. And the other thing is, for the plant's sake, if you break this here, if you break off that vine, that will stop that vine from growing.
Oh, okay.
A zucchini keeps going on a vine, it just keeps going further and further. So that part is nice too, if you give it a nice clean cut.
Okay.
If you do not have a pollinator for your zucchini, you can actually do it manually, and I do a lot of that in the spring. Before the bees are out, we have bees here. But what I'll do is I'll take a male flower. That's the one that has no fruit behind it. That is a male flower. I'll pull the petals back, and then we'll take that, and we'll actually, I see there is one open here. We can actually go and pollinate this zucchini here manually, and that is if you don't have pollinators, you go and you take the female one now, and you just rub that in there. Get the pollen on there, and that zucchini will grow well.
Okay.
So if you don't do that, what you'll see is your zucchini will it'll grow like this, but then it'll start turning brown.
Okay.
And it'll give a misshaped, it'll give a small nothing. Or if you have trouble with a lot of your zucchini falling off, not making anything, it's a sign of not pollinated, not being pollinated. So that's something in the greenhouse especially I have to do, and even early spring.
Okay.
Before the bees are out pollinating.
Would be the same thing with cucumbers then?
Cucumbers are different.
Different?
Cucumbers don't need it.
Okay.
Is a male flower, and as you see, it's just a stem. There is no fruit behind it, and then that is how a male flower. It just has one single thing in there, and then the female flowers. Here's another one of the female. That one has a whole bunch more in it, and then you will see behind that flower there is the fruit. What are your flowers there, dear? Are they
perennials?
a
It's
lot
just vegetables don't grow in this corner here because of all the trees and stuff. So we're just kind of started filling in perennials just to kind of use up garden space, and the girls like flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just
Nice. It's nice to have.
this kind of. But yeah, this year we've not really paid attention to that one much.
And it probably attracts the pollinators too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one good thing that you say. That is one reason we do a lot of flowers. Bees love flowers. We even have a lot of ground bees. This is we have a lot of ants. Is another huge pollinator in a garden.
Really?
Yeah, they will go. They don't do the best job of pollinating, but they are also a pollinator. So any flowers you can have will attract. Rhubarb is almost any time. You can take any rhubarb, but like one like this here, when it's a nice big one, it takes a lot less rhubarb. If they get nice, you can take a little one. It's ready to harvest as soon as it's up, as soon as it's like this. But the plant likes to have a lot of leaves to send energy back into the root. So if you have just lots of little ones, the plant will get stunted if you take it down too far.
Okay.
So does it, and this goes for any of the plants, but if you harvest them more frequently, do they produce more yield?
if it's a good healthy plant, it's nice to harvest it, and it stimulates the root to keep on growing. If you don't do anything with it, it will bush out and then it will start dying off, and it says its season is done. So if you keep pulling out, and then eventually when it's nice, you can even cut it pretty far down, and then it shoots all new again.
Okay.
And all just at one spot. Our garden is kind of all over. That's what we call the front garden. And then this is our big garden in the back here. This is where we do all our corn, squashes, pumpkins, cucumbers, cabbages, beans, beets, lettuce, the dill. This is just, we put whatever we can, whatever we're going to grow goes out here. And there's a patch here that is asparagus. That one starts already as early in end of April, beginning of May. The shoots will start coming out, and so we'll start harvesting asparagus already early in the spring.
Okay.
That's our first crop that comes.
Okay.
And that one will go. We're still doing asparagus, and a lot of that is because we cut down the plants in between, and then again they do that regrowth thing, which if you have an old patch, this is an old patch, you can do it. If your patch is young, you might not want to do that because it wants to store back the energy. They say maybe 10 weeks that you would harvest it at the beginning, so that your root stays healthy.
Okay. Good to know. Now you mentioned earlier that, like, we're filming this in mid-August. Some crops might be already past the date of harvest. Which ones were those again? Like peas, I think.
Peas is probably the only one that is lettuce is a little bit gone. But lettuce is one thing you can seed all the time. You can seed it right early spring, and then you can seed it different times of the year, and lettuce will keep coming up. You can cut it and it'll go down, and then you can reseed it. So lettuce is something, but the peas, we plant those as soon as we can, April, last 2 weeks in April, and then up till the middle of May,
Okay.
which will give us the best harvest, it seems. If you plant it later in the year, there's a lot of other diseases and fungus that comes onto the peas, and they don't do well in the heat.
Okay.
That one needs to be an early crop.
An early one.
And
Okay. What about you mentioned lettuce? You can reseed. Can you reseed spinach and Swiss chard as well?
that's right. You can redo those as well. Swiss chard takes longer. It's not like lettuce. Lettuce comes quick, and you can. Swiss chard takes a little longer. So that is one you can't seed as late. Otherwise, it will just not get established and give you a decent crop.
Okay.
But lettuce and Swiss chard, they definitely, you can keep seeding. And there again, you can seed right till close to freeze up, and as long as they're growing, they'll do well.
Okay.
It's a ready to go ear. It is, and you just go and you just, what I normally do is just grab the stalk, just turn it off like that, and pick it. We go through the hair. If it's starting to dry up a little bit, I often feel the cob. I'll just feel how the cob feels. If it feels nice and full,
Yeah.
if the husk is loose, you know it isn't quite ready yet. And then very often you'll just take a little peek. If the top is getting that different color, further down it's gonna even be a little riper, so you get a very good idea on the corn how that is. Corn, like I said, if you seed it later and the ground is warmer, you have a lot better germination. And like I say, in Brandon here we have a long enough season, and the corn does very well.
So do you go by size as well, like when you're just looking at them on the plant?
That is, I mean, the size is, these are nice, decent size ears. The first ears on a corn plant are always the better ones. The later ears are not. They're what we would call the seconds. They're good, but they will be a smaller corn cob than the first ones. The pumpkin patch here, and as you see in there, there's one nice orange pumpkin there. This one is turning orange, so this one here is ready to harvest. So I'll take my shears, and again, it's very nice to cut it close to the vine, not too close, and that way it leaves you a handle, and that handle this year will help this thing to keep it from rotting. If you just go and you break it off right at the end there, it's very easy for bugs and different contaminations to get in there, and then your pumpkin will start rotting. Now this pumpkin its shelf life is a few months if you want to. Here we have a green pumpkin. Now if you're worried about a frost, they're saying it's going to freeze tonight, you can gladly go and just snip that one off, just like a ripe one, and you can put it on the shelf, and that one will turn orange. It may take 10 days to 2 weeks, and it'll perfectly fill out and be a perfect pumpkin.
Okay. Now, can I mention one thing here, or maybe ask a question? When we're going out to do our gardening, I noticed you had shears, and you use shears for some things, and then earlier you had a knife for some things. When we're going out to the garden, is it a good idea to wear like a gardening apron so we can keep some tools along with us, and maybe a bucket to put our produce in? Is that what you folks normally do? What's your practice, or what would you recommend?
I would say yes, that is very good. An apron would be nice. For me, I like my cargo pants because I can stick my stuff exactly in there. And we use buckets, we use crates, we use wagons, carts, wheelbarrows. Those are the sort of things we would do to bring them back. And like you said, an apron with pockets. If you're picking just one or two little things, you can very nicely store them in there.
Right.
And like you say, your shears, there is a knife is very nice if you have a soft stem you are cutting off. The pumpkins, a lot of the winter squash will have a hard one, and then that's where shears is very nice. It just makes a nice clean cut.
Okay.
And very easy to harvest. Is a raspberry plant. You see a few berries on there. When they're nice and red and easy, they're ready to pick. This is an old cane, so if you want to go through, you can break these off, and then next year new canes always keep coming up, and then the flowers come on, the bees come and pollinate them, and raspberries, as long as there's berries, fruit is coming. They are probably about the best for 3-4 weeks in July, beginning of August. We have a lot of raspberries, and then they just taper off and quit. Again, carrots, once I normally go like that, I dig around a little bit and I see what the top looks like. Baby carrots are very sweet. They are very yummy. So whatever your taste is, you can start picking them early, or you can wait until the frost. And then if they get a touch of frost, it'll really sweeten up a carrot. They are. And again, this if you have a way of covering them, you can cover them, and then all winter you can keep on digging carrots. They are. Carrots you can seed as early as the ground is ready, and they will start growing as soon as it warms up a little bit. There, they start out with a flower, and then they just keep on going until there's pods. And this is a yellow bean, so these here, they're ready to pick. They've got a nice yellow glow to them, and those are fresh beans that were just picked, and they're ready to do whatever you want. You can can these, you can eat them fresh. They're pickle them. There's lots of different
If-
things you can do with the beans.
If beans aren't picked kind of like timely, does that reduce your yield?
It does. Beans again are one of those things that like if you pick them. If we will pick our beans every other day, and that stimulates the plant to keep on producing beans. So,
How many pickings can you get from a bean plant?
you can probably go for probably 4 to 6 weeks. You'll get a decent harvest. They start getting less. Excuse me. They start getting less and less as the season, as the plant gets older. The plant produces less and less.
Okay.
You just weekly go and snip them down, and they will just regrow and keep going. If you don't do anything with these plants, they start sending up shoots, seed, and then the plant does not produce as good leaves. So it's good to go through. We'll often take the older leaves and let the younger ones go, but then the odd person likes a nice tender young shoot, and you can harvest them however you like.
So this is the time of the year that we're talking a lot about dill because of pickling season, right? So I noticed this dill has different stages. So there's the flowers on the top, and then there's also the stage where they're light feathery. So I like to use this one when I do my baby potatoes. So can you tell us the difference between the use of the different parts of the dill plant?
There again, that is, a lot of that has to do with the preference. A lot of people like you say, the ferny dill, and it's a lot more tender, and it has it gives it that real dilly spice.
Right, so that's something you can use like in potato salad or in your salads, that type of thing?
That's right.
Okay.
And then if you want to have more of that seedy, tangy taste, you let it grow into flowers, and it gets definitely, I would say, probably more a stronger taste. It's not that mild, small, fine dill taste. It gets a little more.
So if I'm doing pickles, for example, pickling cucumbers, I would use this in my process.
You could use this is the top part.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the top part right now. It's turning. It's getting ready to do the seed, and this is a lot of people use this to throw in with their pickles.
Okay.
And if you wait a little bit longer, in 2 weeks from now, this is actually going to have a seed, like the dill seed itself.
Okay.
And you can either harvest that and keep that for dill seed and use it in your cooking, baking, whatever you want, or you can save that seed and let it seed it next year. What I often do when my patch is done, we just grind it up and till it in the ground, and it just reseeds itself. So we have 2 dill patches here that we're making, and we just let it reseed itself.
Oh, great, great. That's good to know. Thank you.
And that gives you early. That way you get early dill. It comes up on its own, and it's there early in the spring. That we planted, we bought the onion sets, and we just planted them in the ground, and they will grow. You can, depending what size you want, you can go and check an onion and see. That one is a fairly small one yet. If you enjoy small onions, this one is ready to pick. And another thing you can kind of go by is when the tops start getting brown and they fall over, the onion has stopped growing.
Okay.
This is a basil, so it's a herb you can use however you want in the soup. We often, even my wife likes to dry it, put it through a dehydrator and crush it, and she can use it in that.
Yeah, you know what I like to make is I like to make watermelon juice, and I put some basil and some mint in it, and I put it in my blender.
Yeah.
And that's tasty too.
You can just pull leaves and This is again one of those plants, you just pull them off. This is seed starting to grow, and you just pull off, and there you have it. You know, there's your basil leaves, and you can dry them, you can do whatever you want. Got a nice smell
It
to it.
sure
It's
does.
when you
The more you prune it, the bushier your plant gets.
That's my
But
question.
Yeah, this one's kind of getting going
Yeah.
to see we need to just snip through it again.
And one reason I have these boards on is for the sunshine. If you put the sunshine up, it doesn't get as bitter.
Okay.
That is why I have these boards up. And again, celery is you can take a celery and you can almost harvest it whenever you want. This one here, this one's not huge yet, but as you see, that is the celery. And again, just go in the stores, you would see they had just gone and snipped it off. I pulled this one out by the roots, but you can just go and snip it off at the bottom there and let the little ones go, and there you have a nice young tender celery stick.
So if you were to chop it and leave the root in the ground, would it regrow?
It does some. It will regrow. I've never seen it grow to huge plants like this again. You get little shoots, but I've never got another head, as you to say. You can get wee little shoots and snip those off, but they never grow back, at least not the variety that we have been growing. A vining one that grow up on the trestle, and again, beans is something, some people like big ones and some people like little ones. So again, the harvesting is, once a bean is there, you just pick the size that you want. There's little to big, medium, whatever you want. Once the flower is gone and the bean has formed, you can. And again, this is a vining beans, so they will crawl up your trestle, which makes very easy for harvesting. Pipes that I put up for it to grow, and this is a beautiful cherry tomato, and this one is a heavy producer, and it'll grow as tall as you give it a trestle, and it just keeps on growing and growing, and it just keeps producing. It's unbelievable to me how much these plants will. And if you can keep your tomatoes off the ground, they will not have nearly as much trouble with rotting. As soon as the tomato is on the ground, the dirt and the moisture and everything hits it, and it's very easy that it starts rotting. And but if you can keep it off the ground, the tomatoes, they are much better. There's some real bushy plants up there. Again, if you see, this is our tomato patch, and here we're using a fence to keep the tomatoes up. We put it's a mesh, and we put poles in, and then we'll plant the plants right close to the fence, and that way, as it grows, we keep tying it up. Every few weeks, we'll go through and we'll take little ties, tie it up to the fence, and it'll just keep growing up. And again, that's simply to keep from the fruit going on the ground. Now here is a tomato. This one is already turning. You can see there's a green one beside it. Here is a tomato that is starting to ripen. Again, we'll often pick some of these. This way you can put this on your counter, and it'll ripen. It'll turn a nice and it won't lose any flavor, seeing it so far along.
Okay.
It's started to. And as we go along, we'll find more that are actually ripe. Another way of doing it is stakes. You can pound stakes into the ground by each tomato, same thing, and then you can allow your tomatoes to grow up there, just again keeping them off the ground.
So I noticed that you do have some tomato cages, so it's just personal preference whether you use the fences or the cages, is that right?
The cages are very they're all right, but you can see how they get loaded with tomatoes.
Yes.
And the tomato cage just doesn't hold the plant, and that is preference.
Okay.
I guess there is some smaller tomato plants, and that don't grow as tall and have as much tomatoes on, that it works perfect. But in most cases, the cage just isn't big enough.
Okay.
That is why we use a lot of other.
We prefer the steaks, but
Yeah.
we just
Ground cherry, it is from the tomato family, and it grows out, and it grows a little husk, and inside that husk you have a little berry, and it's a sweet berry. And as I said, it's from the tomato family, and they start out plants like that, and they there's a cluster of them there, that little husk over it, and as they dry, they'll actually even start falling off, and that's why we have this rack here. It keeps the plant a little off. And different variety, we have some of them are jalapenos. This is the orange ones here. They start out again green. You can pick them green if you want, but if you wait a little longer, here is the orange ones. They are turning orange. Here's the orange is starting, and there is a fully orange pepper. There's tomatoes behind there. That's a different kind. We grow what they call romas for making tomato paste and different stuff, sauces. A lot of people like the romas. And then there is the bigger, nice tomatoes. What do we grow? Maybe 4 or 5 different varieties of tomatoes is what we grow. And there again is big bell peppers. There's and there again, those are something they love heat. Give them lots of water, and there I would often go by size. If you let them on long, they will grow large, and but they're ready as soon as they're green, and as soon as you want to, you can start picking them. This is okra patch here, and it's an interesting thing to grow. It's a beautiful looking plant. It starts out with a beautiful flower, and then that flower turns into here on the back here. I've got an okra that is ready, and okra is something you do not want to let grow too large. The larger an okra gets, it gets woody, they call it, and so that part, it's nice to, once they're 2.5 to 4 inches is a perfect time to pick your okra. Here's some more. This one here, this would make a very tender. They're much more tender, and that would not be a woody okra.
So do they come from the back of the flower? Like, how does that?
The okra is it's actually the flower itself. You'll see here. Let's see if I can find one for you that is
Like his
flower, and then it has that little cap on there. The okra grows under the flower, and it just pushes that right off, and there you have a little okra. It's there, but it's just interesting to see some to have giant pumpkins, big giant pumpkins that we're growing. It's just a hobby. It's just for the fun of it, and that one's going to be nice and big. It's going to give you a lot of pies. If you really like pies, you might want to take a big one. And again, there It's same as other pumpkins. You can cut them off whenever you want, and they will finish ripening out. That one there would be ready to take.
Is that a
Different ones. Those are big ones, and then here we have, that's just a white pumpkin. We grow those for decoration. If somebody wants to have one, you can use it for pies if you want, but it's the same thing there. It starts out in a flower, and let me see if I can just find a ripe eggplant here.
just behind you there?
Where is here is a ripe an eggplant that is getting ready. Eggplant, I very often go. This one has a very deep purple color to it yet, and if the eggplant starts turning sort of a dull color, you know it's time to go. And so if it still has that nice deep color on it, you can let it grow to a nice large one. This is the cucumbers. This is the pickling cucumbers. There is again, they have the vines on there. You got the flowers, you have the male flowers, and you have the female flowers, and that's where your pickle will come from, the female flower. And there's bees around here. They're pollinating the cucumbers for you. This one here is you can pick pickles at whatever size you want. A lot of people, you might want to pick them that. People might want them little. A cucumber, once it is formed, once it is there, again, it's ready to pick. Little greenhouse, this is what we will start early. Plants in here just to get an earlier start. We do tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers are a big thing that we start. Broccoli is another thing. Broccoli behind off of that already. But there still is all these. If you let the plant there, these little florets, they call it. They grow, and they're very tasty.
Do you want to just hold it up? That's a...
See, this is our tomato patch, and here we're using a fence to keep the tomatoes up. We put it's a mesh, and we put poles in, and then we'll plant the plants right close to the fence, and that way, as it grows, we keep tying it up. Every few weeks we'll go through and we'll take little ties, tie it up to the fence, and it'll just keep growing up. And again, that's simply to keep from the fruit going on the ground. Now here is a tomato. This one is already turning. You can see there's a green one beside it. Here is a tomato that is starting to ripen. Again, we'll often pick some of these. This way you can put this on your counter, and it'll ripen. It'll turn a nice and it won't lose any flavor, seeing it so far along. It's started to. And as we go along, we'll find more that are actually ripe. Another way of doing it is stakes. You can pound stakes into the ground by each tomato, same thing, and then you can allow your tomatoes to grow up there, just again keeping them off the ground. Ground cherry, it is from the tomato family, and it grows out, and it grows a little husk, and inside that husk you have a little berry, and it's a sweet berry. And as I said, it's from the tomato family, and they start out plants like that, and they there's a cluster of them there, that little husk over it, and as they dry, they'll actually even start falling off. And that's why we have this rack here. it keeps the plant a little off. And different variety. We have some of them are jalapenos. This is the orange ones here. They start out again green. You can pick them green if you want, but if you wait a little longer, here is the orange ones. They are turning orange. Here's the orange is starting, and there is a fully orange orange pepper. There's tomatoes behind there. That's a different kind. We grow what they call romas for making tomato paste and different stuff, sauces. A lot of people like the romas. And then there is the bigger, nice tomatoes. What do we grow? Maybe 4 or 5 different varieties of tomatoes is what we grow. And there again is big bell peppers. There's and there again, those are something they love heat. Give them lots of water, and there I would often go by size. If you let them on long, they will grow large, and but they're ready as soon as they're green, and as soon as you want to, you can start picking them. This is the okra patch here, and it's an interesting thing to grow. It's a beautiful looking plant. It starts out with a beautiful flower, and then that flower turns into here on the back here. I've got an okra that is ready, and okra is something you do not want to let grow too large. The larger an okra gets, it gets woody, they call it. And so that part, it's nice to, once they're 2.5 to 4 inches is a perfect time to pick your okra. Here's some more. This one here, this would make a very tender. They're much more tender, and they don't, that would not be a woody okra. The okra is it's actually the flower itself, you'll see here. And then it has that little cap on there. The flower, the okra grows under the flower, and it just pushes that right off. And there you have a little okra.
Thank you very much to Alan and Shannon Plett of Willow Lane Farms and Gardens, and also to the workers of Willow Lane Gardens. Thank you for having us here today. We've learned a lot about harvesting. We're in the prime season of harvesting, so we'll just say thank you very much for the tour and for the information that we've learned today. The person you don't see that's doing all the work on this workshop is Justine from the City of Brandon. So thank you, Justine, for making this possible today, and thank you to the City of Brandon.
Well, thank you very much for everything. I enjoy going out in the garden, and we've learned a lot of things from others, and this is what we have. And yeah, we're on Facebook under Alan Plett, and we also go to the global market every Saturday. We're there from 9 to 1, and we have our produce there. Thank you.